Chapter 1, A Leap of Faith. Sarah Matthews stared blankly at the computer screen, her mind numb as her boss's voice droned on about budget cuts and restructuring. She had given 5 years of her life to this advertising agency, climbing the ranks with tireless dedication and countless late nights. Yet here she was, being told that her position was no longer necessary. As she packed up her desk, a mix of anger and sadness swirled inside her. The city that once felt like a bustling haven of opportunities now seemed cold and indifferent. Sarah had no idea what she was going to do next, but she knew she needed a change, something drastic to shake her out of her current state of disillusionment. That night, she sat on her small apartment balcony, staring out at the city lights. Her best friend, Mia, had always talked about taking a road trip across the country, chasing the sun from coast to coast. It sounded like a pipe dream then, but now it seemed like the perfect escape. With no job and nothing tying her down, Sarah felt a spark of excitement she hadn't felt in years. The next morning, Sarah made the decision. She would pack her bags, get in her car, and drive with no set destination. It was time to rediscover herself, to find the parts of her that had been buried under the weight of corporate expectations and societal pressures. Packing was easier than she expected. Sarah took only the essentials: clothes, a few books, her camera, and a map. She left behind her high heels and business suits, embracing a simpler, more spontaneous lifestyle. Her heart raced with anticipation as she turned the key in the ignition and pulled out of her apartment's parking lot. As she drove through the city, the familiar sights blurred into a backdrop of possibilities. The open road stretched ahead of her, promising adventure and new beginnings. With each mile, she felt the tension in her shoulders ease, replaced by a sense of freedom. The first few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Sarah navigated winding mountain roads, slept under the stars in a borrowed tent, and enjoyed the solitude of long drives. She stopped in small towns, visited local diners, and listened to the stories of strangers. Each encounter added a new layer to her journey, filling the empty spaces within her with hope and inspiration. One evening, as she drove along a scenic route in Tennessee, Sarah felt the pull to stop at a rustic roadside diner. The neon sign flickered, casting a warm glow on the gravel parking lot. She parked her car and stepped inside, the bell above the door jingling to announce her arrival. The diner was cozy and inviting, with red vinyl booths and checkered tablecloths. The smell of fresh coffee and homemade pie filled the air. Sarah slid into a booth near the window, gazing out at the setting sun. As she sipped her coffee, she couldn't help but feel that this was the right place to be. Her thoughts were interrupted by a cheerful voice. "Mind if I join you?" Sarah looked up to see a man with tousled brown hair and a warm smile. He had an air of confidence and a twinkle in his eye that suggested he had his own share of stories to tell. "Sure," Sarah replied, gesturing to the seat across from her. "I'm Sarah." "Ben," he said, extending his hand. "Nice to meet you, Sarah." They fell into easy conversation, sharing tales of their travels and dreams for the future. Ben was a musician, traveling from town to town, playing gigs wherever he could. His free-spirited nature intrigued Sarah, and she found herself laughing more than she had in months. As the night wore on, they realized they were headed in the same direction. Ben suggested they travel together, at least for a little while. Sarah hesitated, but the idea of companionship on the open road was too appealing to pass up. With a leap of faith, Sarah agreed. Little did she know, this spontaneous decision would change her life in ways she couldn't have imagined. The journey ahead was filled with adventure, discovery, and the promise of a love she had only dreamed of. As they set off together the next morning, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. The sun rose on the horizon, casting a golden light on the path ahead. With Ben by her side, she was ready to chase the sun and embrace whatever the future held. Chapter 2, The First Encounter. The dawn broke over the mountains, casting a warm, golden glow that melted away the last traces of night. Sarah and Ben hit the road early, the excitement of their newfound companionship propelling them forward. The open road seemed even more inviting with someone to share it with. Their first stop was a quaint little town nestled in the valley, a place that seemed to have been untouched by time. As they drove down Main Street, Sarah couldn't help but notice the charm of the old brick buildings, the friendly waves of the townsfolk, and the vibrant window displays of local businesses. They parked near a small cafe, the scent of freshly baked bread and brewing coffee wafting through the air. "Breakfast?" Ben suggested, a grin spreading across his face. "My treat." Sarah nodded, her stomach rumbling in agreement. They walked into the cafe, the bell above the door chiming softly. The interior was cozy, with mismatched wooden tables and chairs, vintage posters on the walls, and a chalkboard menu showcasing the day's specials. They settled into a corner booth, and a cheerful waitress promptly took their orders. As they waited for their food, Sarah took the opportunity to learn more about her travel companion. "So, Ben," she began, resting her chin on her hand. "What made you decide to hit the road and become a traveling musician?" Ben leaned back, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "I've always loved music, ever since I was a kid. My parents weren't exactly supportive, though. They wanted me to follow a more traditional path, college, a stable job, you know the drill. But I knew that wasn't for me. So, one day, I just packed up my guitar and left. Haven't looked back since." Sarah admired his courage. "That's really brave. It must be amazing to live your dream." "It's not always easy," Ben admitted. "There are days when I wonder if I made the right choice. But then I play a gig, see people enjoying the music, and I remember why I do it." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their breakfast, fluffy pancakes for Sarah and a hearty omelette for Ben. As they dug in, the conversation flowed effortlessly, covering topics from favorite songs to memorable travel experiences. Sarah found herself opening up in a way she hadn't in years, sharing stories and dreams she had kept locked away. After breakfast, they decided to explore the town. They wandered through antique shops, admired the local art, and even stumbled upon a small farmer's market. The sense of community and the slower pace of life were a refreshing change for Sarah, who had grown accustomed to the fast-paced city life. As they strolled through the market, Ben stopped to listen to a street musician playing a soulful tune on his guitar. The musician's fingers danced over the strings, creating a melody that resonated with both of them. Ben glanced at Sarah, his eyes shining with excitement. "Mind if I join him for a bit?" he asked, already reaching for his own guitar. "Go ahead," Sarah encouraged, eager to see Ben in his element. Ben approached the musician, exchanged a few words, and soon the two of them were playing together. The crowd gathered around them, captivated by the impromptu performance. Sarah watched in awe as Ben's fingers moved effortlessly across the strings, his passion for music evident in every note. The song ended to enthusiastic applause, and Ben returned to Sarah, his face flushed with exhilaration. "That was incredible," he said, his voice filled with joy. "Thank you for letting me do that." "It was amazing to watch," Sarah replied, genuinely moved by the experience. "You're really talented, Ben." As the sun began to set, they found a quiet spot by a nearby river. The water glistened in the fading light, and the gentle sound of the flowing current provided a soothing backdrop. They sat on the grass, side by side, the comfortable silence between them speaking volumes. "Today was perfect," Sarah said softly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Thank you for sharing it with me." Ben turned to her, his eyes full of warmth. "The pleasure was all mine, Sarah. I'm glad we're doing this together." In that moment, Sarah felt a connection with Ben that went beyond words. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but she knew that as long as they were together, anything was possible. With the sun setting on the first day of their adventure, she felt a sense of contentment and hope she hadn't felt in a long time. As they made their way back to their car, Sarah realized that this journey was about more than just finding herself. It was about discovering new possibilities, embracing the unexpected, and opening her heart to the adventures that lay ahead, adventures that she now knew were even more meaningful with Ben by her side. Chapter 3: On the Road Together. The early morning light filtered through the trees as Sarah and Ben loaded their belongings into the car. With a shared look of excitement, they set off, eager to see where the road would take them next. The rhythm of the engine and the hum of the tires on the asphalt created a comforting background noise, lulling them into a sense of serenity. Their journey took them through winding mountain roads, past serene lakes, and across vast open plains. Each new landscape brought with it a sense of wonder and possibility. They shared laughter and stories, learning more about each other's lives with every mile. One afternoon, they found themselves in a small, picturesque town known for its charming boutiques and art galleries. They parked the car and decided to explore on foot, wandering through cobblestone streets lined with flower boxes and colorful awnings. Their first stop was an art gallery, where they marveled at the paintings and sculptures created by local artists. Ben was particularly drawn to a series of abstract paintings, his eyes lighting up with appreciation for the vibrant colors and bold strokes. "I've always admired people who can express themselves through art," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration. "It's like they have a different way of seeing the world." Sarah nodded in agreement. "It's incredible how much emotion they can convey with just a few brushstrokes." As they continued their exploration, they stumbled upon a quaint bookstore. The scent of old paper and ink filled the air, and Sarah couldn't resist the urge to browse the shelves. She found herself lost in the pages of a classic romance novel, while Ben perused the music section, his fingers gently strumming an imaginary guitar as he read. They left the bookstore with a couple of new treasures, a novel for Sarah and a book of guitar tabs for Ben. Their next stop was a cozy cafe, where they sat by the window, sipping coffee and watching the world go by. "Do you ever think about where we'll end up?" Sarah asked, her eyes fixed on the bustling street outside. Ben considered her question for a moment. "Not really. I guess I've always been more focused on the journey than the destination. But with you, I think I'd be happy anywhere." His words warmed her heart, and she reached across the table to take his hand. "I feel the same way." Their journey continued, each day bringing new adventures and deeper connections. They hiked through lush forests, camped under star-filled skies, and swam in crystal-clear lakes. Every experience was more vibrant and meaningful because they were sharing it together. One evening, as they sat by a campfire in a remote national park, Ben pulled out his guitar and began to play. The soft, melodic notes filled the air, blending seamlessly with the sounds of the night. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "That was beautiful," she said softly when the song ended. Ben smiled, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames. "I'm glad you liked it. I've been working on that song for a while, but it never felt quite right until now." Sarah felt a surge of emotion, knowing that she was part of the inspiration behind his music. "Thank you for sharing it with me." They spent the rest of the evening talking and laughing, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. As the fire died down, they curled up together under a blanket, gazing up at the stars. "Do you ever wonder what the future holds?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes," Ben replied, his arm wrapped around her. "But right now, all I care about is being here with you." Sarah smiled, feeling a sense of contentment and happiness she hadn't felt in a long time. The future was uncertain, but she knew that as long as they were together, they could face anything. As they drifted off to sleep under the vast expanse of the night sky, Sarah realized that this journey was about more than just finding herself. It was about discovering new possibilities, embracing the unexpected, and opening her heart to the adventures that lay ahead, adventures that were even more meaningful with Ben by her side. The days turned into weeks, and their bond grew stronger with every shared experience. They navigated through both the joys and challenges of life on the road, finding strength and comfort in each other. The open road was their canvas, and they painted it with memories that would last a lifetime. And as they chased the sun, Sarah knew that this journey was just the beginning of something beautiful. Chapter 4: Uncovering the Past. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the rugged landscape as Sarah and Ben drove into a small, historic town in the heart of the Midwest. The town's charm was evident in its well-preserved Victorian houses and the old-fashioned street lamps that lined the main road. It was the perfect place to take a break from their journey and explore. They checked into a quaint bed and breakfast, run by an elderly couple who welcomed them with warm smiles and stories of the town's rich history. After settling into their room, they decided to take a leisurely evening stroll to get a feel for the place. As they walked hand in hand, Sarah couldn't help but notice the sense of nostalgia that seemed to linger in the air. The town felt like a living museum, with its antique shops, historic landmarks, and residents who took pride in their heritage. It was a stark contrast to the fast-paced city life she had left behind. Their exploration led them to a local diner, where they enjoyed a hearty meal and struck up a conversation with the waitress, who was more than happy to share tales of the town's past. One story in particular caught Sarah's attention, a legend about a hidden treasure buried somewhere in the town. According to the legend, the waitress explained, a wealthy businessman hid a fortune in gold coins somewhere in the town just before the Great Depression. He intended to come back for it, but he passed away before he could retrieve it. Many have tried to find it over the years, but no one has succeeded. Intrigued, Sarah and Ben decided to spend the next day investigating the legend. They visited the local library, poring over old newspapers and historical records in search of clues. Sarah's excitement grew with each discovery, feeling like she was unraveling a mystery that had been forgotten by time. As they delved deeper into the town's history, they stumbled upon an old journal in the library's archives. The journal belonged to the businessman himself, and its pages were filled with entries about his life and his dealings. Sarah's heart raced as she read his words, feeling a connection to the past that was almost tangible. One entry in particular stood out. It mentioned a hidden compartment in the town's abandoned general store, where the businessman had hidden important documents and possibly the key to finding the treasure. Sarah and Ben knew they had to investigate further. The next morning, they made their way to the abandoned general store. The building was dilapidated, its windows boarded up and the paint peeling from the walls. It had an eerie yet intriguing aura, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. They managed to find a way inside, their footsteps echoing in the dusty, empty space. As they searched the store, they found a hidden compartment behind a loose panel in the back room. Inside, they discovered a bundle of old documents and a small, ornate box. With bated breath, Sarah opened the box to reveal a set of gold coins and a detailed map. The map seemed to outline the town, with markings that indicated several key locations. It was a treasure map, confirming that the legend was true. Excitement bubbled up inside her as she showed Ben their findings. "This is incredible. We have to follow the map and see where it leads." Ben grinned, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. Let's see if we can uncover the rest of the treasure." Following the map, they visited several historic sites around the town, each location revealing another clue. It felt like a grand adventure, and Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose and exhilaration she hadn't experienced in years. Their journey led them to the town's old cemetery, where the final clue pointed to a large, ancient oak tree. As they approached the tree, they noticed a small, weathered plaque at its base. The plaque bore an inscription that matched the final clue on the map. With careful determination, they dug around the base of the tree, eventually uncovering a rusted metal box. Inside the box was a collection of gold coins, jewelry, and a letter from the businessman, explaining that he had hidden his fortune to protect it from the economic turmoil of his time. Sarah and Ben stood in awe of their discovery, the weight of history and the thrill of the hunt washing over them. It was a moment of triumph, a testament to their perseverance and partnership. As they sat under the ancient oak tree, examining their find, Sarah realized that this journey was about more than just the treasure. It was about the connections they had made, the stories they had uncovered, and the bond they had forged. The past had brought them closer together, revealing truths about themselves and each other that they had never expected. In the golden light of the setting sun, Sarah looked at Ben, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and love. "Thank you for sharing this adventure with me," she said softly. "I couldn't have done it without you." Ben took her hand, his eyes reflecting the same sentiment. "I'm glad we did this together. It's a memory we'll cherish forever." As they made their way back to the bed and breakfast, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement for the future. The past had shown her that life was full of unexpected treasures, waiting to be uncovered. And with Ben by her side, she was ready to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead. Chapter 5: Challenges and Conflicts. The discovery of the treasure brought Sarah and Ben closer than ever, but it also brought unexpected challenges and conflicts. The thrill of the hunt had momentarily overshadowed the realities of their journey, and as they continued on the road, they found themselves facing new obstacles that tested their relationship. One morning, as they prepared to leave the bed and breakfast, Ben received a phone call from his old bandmate, Jake. Jake was in desperate need of a guitarist for a series of gigs in Nashville and begged Ben to come back and help. Ben was torn. He had been enjoying his travels with Sarah, but the opportunity to play music again was tempting. "I don't want to leave you," Ben said, his voice filled with frustration. "But I can't ignore this chance. It's what I love to do." Sarah understood his passion for music, but she couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. "I get it, Ben. Music is your life. You should go." "I'll be fine." They agreed to part ways temporarily, promising to reunite once Ben's gigs were over. Sarah continued her journey alone, but the joy of adventure was tinged with a sense of loneliness. She missed Ben's presence, his laughter, and the way he made every moment special. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah found herself struggling with self-doubt. Without Ben, the open road seemed less inviting, and she questioned whether she had made the right decision to let him go. She continued to explore new places and meet new people, but the spark that had ignited her journey was fading. Meanwhile, Ben faced his own challenges. The music scene in Nashville was competitive, and the pressure to perform was intense. He found himself missing the simplicity of life on the road with Sarah, and he realized that his passion for music was intertwined with the joy of sharing it with her. One evening, after a particularly exhausting gig, Ben called Sarah. Hearing her voice brought a sense of relief and longing. "I miss you," he admitted. "This isn't the same without you." "I miss you too," Sarah replied, her voice filled with emotion. "But I want you to follow your dreams, Ben. I'll always support you." Their conversation brought some comfort, but it didn't resolve the underlying tension. They both knew they needed to find a way to balance their individual passions with their relationship. As Sarah continued her travels, she encountered a group of hikers who invited her to join them on a challenging trek through the Rocky Mountains. Eager for a distraction and a new adventure, she agreed. The hike was grueling, but it provided her with a sense of accomplishment and a renewed perspective. One night, as they sat around a campfire, one of the hikers, a wise and experienced traveler named Lydia, shared her insights on life and love. "Life is a series of choices," Lydia said. "And sometimes, the hardest choice is the one that leads to the greatest rewards. It's about finding balance and staying true to yourself while also embracing the journey with those you love." Lydia's words resonated with Sarah, and she realized that her journey was about more than just discovering new places. It was about understanding herself and her desires, and finding a way to integrate those with her relationship with Ben. With newfound clarity, Sarah decided to head back to Nashville. She needed to talk to Ben face to face and figure out their next steps together. The drive back was filled with anticipation and a sense of purpose. When she arrived in Nashville, she found Ben at a small coffee shop, strumming his guitar and lost in thought. He looked up, surprised but delighted to see her. "Sarah! What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you," she said, sitting down across from him. "I've been thinking a lot about us and our journey. I realize that we need to find a balance that works for both of us. I don't want to lose you, Ben." Ben reached for her hand, his eyes filled with warmth and relief. "I don't want to lose you either. Let's figure this out together." They spent the evening talking, sharing their fears, hopes, and dreams. They discussed ways to support each other's passions while staying connected. It wasn't easy, but they were committed to making it work. Ben decided to finish the remaining gigs in Nashville, but with the plan to rejoin Sarah afterward. They agreed to set specific times to check in and share their experiences, ensuring that their connection remained strong despite the distance. As Sarah hit the road again, she felt a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. The challenges and conflicts they had faced had only strengthened their bond, teaching them valuable lessons about love and compromise. The open road stretched ahead, filled with endless possibilities. With Ben by her side, even if not physically present, Sarah knew they could overcome any obstacle and embrace the adventures that lay ahead. Together, they were ready to chase the sun and create a future that was uniquely theirs, filled with love, passion, and the promise of endless discovery. Chapter 6: A New Beginning. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of change and adaptation. Sarah continued her journey, exploring new towns and landscapes, but always with a sense of anticipation for the moments she could share with Ben. Their frequent phone calls and video chats became a lifeline, keeping them connected despite the miles that separated them. Ben's gigs in Nashville were a success, and he gained recognition for his talent and passion. But more importantly, he realized that the applause and accolades meant little without Sarah to share them with. As the final concert came to a close, Ben felt a sense of relief and excitement. It was time to reunite with Sarah and start a new chapter together. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah found herself in a small town in Colorado, nestled at the foot of the Rocky Mountains. The air was fresh and cool, and the vibrant fall colors painted a picturesque backdrop. She had chosen this place as their meeting point, a fitting location for a new beginning. Ben arrived just as the sun was rising, the golden light casting a warm glow over the town. As he stepped out of the car, his heart raced with anticipation. He spotted Sarah waiting for him near a quaint cafe, her face lighting up with a smile as their eyes met. "Ben," she called, running to meet him. He caught her in his arms, lifting her off the ground in a tight embrace. "I've missed you so much," he whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "I've missed you too," Sarah replied, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "I'm so glad you're here." They spent the day exploring the town, enjoying the simple pleasures of being together again. They visited local shops, shared a picnic by a serene lake, and hiked up a trail that offered breathtaking views of the mountains. It felt like a dream, a perfect blend of adventure and intimacy. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the landscape, they found a cozy spot overlooking the valley. They sat together, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. "This place is beautiful," Ben said, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It feels like the perfect place to start anew." Sarah nodded, resting her head on his shoulder. "I agree. I've been thinking a lot about what Lydia said about balance and staying true to ourselves. I think we can make it work, Ben. We just need to communicate and support each other." Ben turned to her, his eyes filled with determination and love. "I promise to do everything I can to make this work, Sarah. You're my inspiration, and I don't want to lose what we have." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, soaking in the beauty of the moment. Then, Ben reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as he opened it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "Sarah," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "This journey has shown me what's truly important in life. It's not just about the music or the places we visit, it's about the people we share it with. I want to share my life with you, through all the adventures and challenges. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy streamed down Sarah's face as she nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, Ben. 1,000 times yes." Ben slipped the ring onto her finger, and they sealed their promise with a kiss, the setting sun casting a golden glow over them. It was a moment of pure magic, a new beginning filled with hope and love. In the days that followed, they began to plan their future together. They decided to continue their travels, but with a new purpose and direction. They would seek out places where they could both pursue their passions, Ben with his music and Sarah with her writing and photography. Their journey took them to vibrant cities and serene countryside, each destination adding new layers to their story. They met incredible people, experienced different cultures, and created memories that would last a lifetime. Through it all, they learned the importance of balance and compromise. There were moments of conflict and doubt, but they faced them together, always finding a way to reconnect and strengthen their bond. As they chased the sun across the country, they discovered that their love was the true treasure. It was a journey of growth and discovery, not just of the world around them, but of themselves and each other. And as they stood hand in hand on a beach at sunset, the waves gently lapping at their feet, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning of their greatest adventure. With Ben by her side, she was ready to embrace the future, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a love that would guide them through anything. Together, they faced the horizon, ready to chase the sun and all the dreams it held.